Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Random. Berto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to start with a special guest today. But anyhow, let's just go ahead and jump right into the show. Title of the show today is Ashton Woods, BLM, Black Lives Matter Houston founder, talks defunding police. And then we're going to go into a little bit of talking about the police unions, COVID, economy, if we have some time, and into a whole lot of other stuff. It's important show. You know what we do. We keep moving forward. We cover things that a lot of folks don't cover. Anyhow, Black Lives Matter Houston founder Ashton Woods discussing defunding the police and much more. Police unions threaten us. Remember that. They threaten us. Trump, COVID-19. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump conspiracies. Well, not really to talk about Trump, but to talk about what we do. Ashton Woods did not disappoint as he discussed various issues Black Lives Matters fight for. He further discussing capitalism and how the structures of different levels of government affect us all. I think I see a typo. We later discuss the police unions issues that we talk about. So folks, without further ado, let's go ahead and get busy. But before I get busy, remember there's a new way to contact us by phone. It is now a telephone number that is 346-248-7799. That new number is at 346-248-7799, and the ID, it's all there on the screen, 254-600-9091. Sally Salas, welcome aboard, my friend. Sally Salas, welcome aboard. What I'll do is as I play and as interview Ashton, I'll go ahead and put some of those inside of the different areas, okay? Anyhow, folks, let's just go ahead and let me see where I want to put this. Let's go ahead and get busy. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Folks, we are here with Ashton Woods, Ashton P. Woods, who is the founder of Black Lives Matter Houston. And actually, it's one of the more, I like to call it one of the bigger Black Lives Matters in the country. I meet with you all the time at Netroots all over the country. How you been doing?
I've been good. I have been trying to practice self-care to make sure that I'm able to function through all of this, because there are a lot of mouths moving and not enough critical thought happening. And so I'm just protecting my energy.
Well, I am glad to see that. I noticed that this morning you were at the George Floyd's funeral, and you actually got a very good interview from MSNBC. Let me go ahead and play that, and then we'll go back and talk about it.
Joining me now, Ashton Woods. Ashton's a longtime community organizer. He's the founder of Black Lives Matter Houston. Ashton, first of all, how do you hope that George Floyd is remembered here today?
So what I'm hoping for right now, after we lay him to rest, because his family deserves this closure so much, is that we are able to hold our elected leaders accountable, to make sure that any policies, laws, or ordinances are either abolished or changed. We have to look beyond reforms. We actually have to look at the foundations that are cracked and the framing of buildings that are no longer viable, in the context that we need to look at what is not working, change it, and improve the lives of people, because this is a quality of life issue. Not only is it police brutality, but it's the policies that enable police brutality. It's the policies that affect us with our education, our health care. Let's not forget that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and our group, the Black community, is one of the most affected by that. So when we're talking about addressing police brutality, we're also talking about systems of oppression and white supremacy altogether. And so what I'm hoping to see from this after we lay George to rest is that people come together and find out what the actual causes are that led to his death and so many others, because he's the one we saw. How many people have been murdered in the last month and a half that we don't know about, or over the years? So that's where we have to start.
Democrats, as you know, unveiled a sweeping police reform bill on Monday. Here are just a few of the things that the bill calls for. Puts a ban on the use of chokeholds. Also bans those so-called no-knock warrants in federal drug cases. Limits the transfer of military equipment to local law enforcement. Requires training on racial bias and duty to intervene as well. Does this bill go far enough in your view?
No, because all politics are local in a lot of cities, including Minneapolis. That action that this officer took on George Floyd by placing his knee on the back of George's neck while the other three stood by and watched, those were already rules on the books. I think that they should pass it on the national level, but if you're going to pass bills like that, fund it with teeth to make sure it's being enforced, because I really do believe that we keep having conversations about calling police the one bad apple, when in fact, if the good police officer is not actually reporting and whistleblowing about the bad apples, they're just as much a part of the problem. The police can't police the police, and I believe that Congress, down to our state legislators and our other elected bodies on a local level, have more power to do just those things and much more. I believe that they could work, but it has to be enforced. And if we don't fund these bills as we're passing them as symbolic gestures, that's all they'll be, is symbolic gestures. We're looking for justice right now, and that has to be real and concrete.
Ashton Woods, Black Lives Matter, Houston. Ashton, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Craig.
Hey, let me tell you something. I was very impressed, Ashton, for one specific reason. There's a whole lot of people talking all around the country and giving interviews. Some folks have gotten into the movement that I don't think belong in the movement because they don't know what the hell is going on. And what I enjoyed, or what I respected in what you had to say, is that you tied in the critical factors that anybody talking about Black Lives Matter, especially in the times of pandemic and police brutality, has to bring in, and that is criminal justice, police brutality, as well as healthcare. So go ahead and talk to me a little bit about the essence of what you had to say on that interview.
I mean, I've interviewed with every major network in the country nationally, and I've said the exact same thing that I said today, with additional information, because I think you were getting at the whole, when you were asking me the question, you were getting at the whole succinctness of it all, right? Yeah. Because I think of things as interconnected, like connecting the dots. If you have to address police brutality, you have to address the racism in all of its forms. And if you don't do that, regulating the police, abolishing the police won't do anything if all the other systems are still intact. It's like adding rooms to a house with a bad foundation and rotted wood framing. It's like you can't do it. You just can't. And reforming is adding to a system that is already damaged and bad. We're talking about adding stuff to something supported with clay feet.
Yeah, I love the way that Sharpton was putting it all together. But I want to get your, we know that we cannot build on what they have today, because what they have today is a flawed system. I mean, there are things like all these officers in Minneapolis live out of the city. How can they police the city? But how do you propose us actually revamping, I don't even want to call it a police force, a force that maintains the safety of the community?
I think that we don't need a force that maintains the safety of the community. I think that we need something different, and that looks like making sure that we create a system of checks and balances where you don't have a force, because we keep putting authority on forces. And we put authority on forces, what they say is considered official. And if anybody comes out and speaks out against them, all our information, our lived experience is treated as anecdotal. And when we get treated as anecdotal, you see things like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 6 murders here in Houston, because it's always what the police chief said. Imagine a world without prisons, but with a system where we could develop that's up for discussion, how we deal with people who are violent and do violent things. But right now we have a system where people sit in jail for 6 months to a year, who get paid who are on low wage jobs, they use public transportation, who are now at risk for losing their homes, their apartments, at risk of losing those jobs because of the way scheduling works, and coming out and having to innovate and do things just to survive. Because in Houston and in Texas, when you do certain things and you get arrested a certain kind of way and certain charges are filed, and those things, even if you're guilty or not, you wind up in a plea deal, and then when you come out, you can't find an apartment because no one will accept you. You can't find a job because no one will accept you. These are the things that we're talking about here. This is capitalism, because it also affects your credit score.
You can't get anything without credit unless you got a large sum of collateral. Who do you know? Do you have large collateral to do what you want to do at times you want to do it? No. You poor just like I am. And when people realize when we're talking about abolishment, we're not just talking about the police. I mean, like, if we literally wanted to do this right, we would go through the city charter and look at every single thing that criminalizes and penalizes and look at how it hurts Black and brown people who are now the majority, remove those things and have a new charter. The same thing with the state constitution. And as far as, community advisory boards, body cameras, and rules on how many police officers could come in from out of town to work on people, to work on police departments. Here's the thing: the truth of the matter is that this is here. The state made it so that we can't keep people from coming in from outer areas, because we tried that here in Houston. Do you remember the Texas legislature actually regulated and said that we cannot not hire people from outside of the city of Houston or whatever municipalities there are? And furthermore, they regulate body cameras, and they're the ones who won't allow us to put teeth in our community advisory boards with subpoena power, right? We have to know who to be mad at in order to make sure we get the change we need.
So what I like about that is that in that statement, you integrated everything, integrated capitalism, which by design, the masters of the city, the masters of the state, the masters of the federal government are actually maintaining whole. The reasons that we can't attain a whole lot of these things that we want to attain is because it will go in direct conflict with, yes, capitalism. My question to you is this: the concept of Black Lives Matter is a lot deeper. We know all these different ills. Tell me, what are the steps that we are proposing now to go ahead and mitigate these ills? Starting now. In other words, we're in the activism stage in many points. How do you go from activism to action?
First and foremost, I think the onus is on them. What I always do when I organize a protest or when any other people, part of BLM Houston, organizes something, we always make it a rule that you have to know people that you never knew before you left the protest. You can't create critical mass or have praxis in community when it comes to creating change unless you know at least 4 or 5 other people that you didn't know before you left this protest. Because if you don't, you came alone or you came with your friends and that's all you did, you came for nothing. You came to express your anger, which the event is built for community in that context. But the greater responsibility is that now that a lot of people know what to target, who to target, and how to target, or at least the people they can get to learn how to do so, they now have the responsibility, if they really want to see this change that they were demanding at these protests, to show up and ask questions that they don't know and be willing to show up when they have time. Because the danger in all of this is that I see people come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. When you met me, I was 25, 26 years old, Alberto.
Right.
And I'm 35 now. You've watched me grow up doing this exact thing every year. And it's not about going to conferences and doing different things. It had always been about being able to go to different places to meet people who are like-minded like me, because I can't find enough people like that where I live, and they say the same thing. Mainly because people, all they want to do is sit around and have monthly meetings, talk about what they're going to do, self-aggrandize, and then don't do anything. Black Lives Matter Houston had always been predicated on, I don't have time to be sitting with you with all these meetings in the free Jason's Deli. We know what we need to do. Let's figure out how to do it and then take action. And that's what you know me to be as a personal friend. But for those out there who are listening, I think it's incumbent upon everybody, including myself, to remember that the goal here is to get free. And whatever getting free looks like to you because of whatever oppressions you are under as an individual. I can put myself out there. I'm openly HIV positive. I've been openly gay since I was 14 years old. And I've been an activist since I was 14, 15 years old. You know, I'm a Black Lives Matter activist, but first and foremost, I'm a Black person.
And I know all too well, even now, how people deem me as loud, angry, big black man who can hurt you as opposed to a gentle giant. And I think that when we're talking about these systems that people want to call out when they go to protest and when they move beyond protest, it's time for us to start educating people on what to call things, right? Sometimes we don't know what to call something. We don't know what to call depression sometimes. In the Black community, we've been abused by our medical society over time, and there's a breed of distrust in that, which is probably why we're having such of a horrific time with this pandemic. But also think about when you tell somebody during the pandemic, stay at home and wait weeks before you start doing food distribution, and tell them that they don't need masks after the masks had actually run out, only to tell them to wear masks. And then when they wear that mask to go get food with the little money they do have at XYZ store, they get accosted for wearing CDC certified masks while black and having to justify why they wanted to buy a gallon of milk. So when we're talking about all of these structures, we're talking about the privileging of white people to be able to take space and don't know how to understand when someone tells them no. And because of that, they've permeated our police departments, they make our policies, and they're not used to the black women and all the black and brown folks that have been getting into office. They're not used to any of this. And to bring it full circle, we're talking about this is just now happening. People are just, no, it was after Barack Obama got into office in the 2010. And so when Barack Obama got in, people forget that this definitely started with Trump's birther movement. But not only that, 2 years into Obama's presidency, the 2010 midterm elections came up, and you saw the birth of the Tea Party. And when you put it into perspective, how we empower white supremacy is when we take Mattress Mac and give him awards and accommodations for doing good things around the city, for getting tax write-offs, and taking the money that he does make from his personal time and was donating to the Tea Party and holding fundraisers for the Tea Party and a host of other groups of people. Some of us who look like us supported Tony Busby, who is just as bad. And so when we're talking about systems of oppression, every time we buy Chick-fil-A or we go to a certain store, this is what capitalism looks like, because they're the funders of these people who we want to get out of office, but they will never get out of office because we keep voting against our own interests while being just told simply to go vote in lieu of all of the other things that I just said, as opposed to being educated about who to vote for, as opposed to being educated about why they're voting for that person and who that person is and what they can and can't do. Right? What is the responsibilities of each elected official or position that you are voting someone into? Not just based off of experience because they had elected office before, but this shows you that the only way we can break the status quo is if we don't just act like vote and save lives, because yes, it does, but it's a double-edged sword. Because you can write all the laws you want, you can create all the ordinances you want. It just takes one bad cop or one bad teacher or one bad elected official to do something that is so dangerous to our community, and we can't do anything about it.
And that's why activism is so important, and not activism just for a period of time, but an activism that perseveres throughout all of this. One of the, we go back a long time, and one of the things that I've always respected of you is that you've been consistent, and you've been 100% consistent in not what you believe in, because we all, if you're progressive, there are certain belief structures that you have, but it's not falling for the con. Not falling for, let's say, the con that occurred in South Carolina, not falling for the con that occurred, in these different states where we constantly settle. Now, let's talk a little bit about, I know I asked earlier, how do we start implementation? I want to narrow it a little bit. Right now, the buzzword is defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
Let's localize that to Houston. How are you going to defund the police in Houston?
First and foremost, it's not about how I'm going to defund the police in Houston.
I should say
how we're going to hold our elected officials, how we hold our elected officials to the fire and make them do it. Because there's two things. Letitia Palmer did this 8 for 8 thing that came from Campaign Zero.
Right.
And I'm supporting it, but I'm not actually for the 8 for 8. What I'm doing is trying to show people that even this little bit, even though it's ineffective, it's like adding rooms to a house that's crumbling with a bad foundation and rotted wood. I would prefer that we force HPD to and the Houston Police Officers Union and the City of Houston to discontinue any private talks about any policies and pay and make everything public and front facing, because there's $1 billion on the table and the Houston Police Officers Union gets 100% in how it all goes. That means that we don't know whether or not de-escalation policies actually exist. It means that we don't know anything about their policies in general, because for the last few decades, Houston Police Department has been one of 5 in the entire country, the entire United States of America, that has its general orders redacted, meaning you can't see what they can and can't do. And if you try to request it, I hope you have money, because foreign requests cost money. And if you do get it, it's probably going to be blacked out. Trust me, I know, I've seen it. So when we're talking about transparency and our Acevedo is gesturing around like the court clown, hugging protesters and kneeling with protesters, and then 2 hours later turning around and arresting them, and out of the other side of us, they're talking about, well, we need to see this change on a national level. No, sir. This is natural stump speech for whatever elected office you're going to seek after you get fired or resign from Houston Police Department. What needs to happen is that the changes have to happen locally. Our city government is not transparent, and Sylvester Turner is coming off as a controlling sociopath right now. Because one of the reasons I brought up Letitia Plummer's 8 for 8, right? I know that those are very small reform fixes, and I've never been big on reform. But the point is that I'm supporting it because she came out first. She was a Black woman who held city council members to account during a live city council meeting and was the only one that was speaking out the whole time that was working in the city government, besides Tiffany Thomas and a couple other people. And then I come to find out they don't even want that. She's been getting nasty messages from people who work with her and police officers, right? And I think that the elected officials in our city government need to look past the fact that they got endorsed by the Houston Police Officers Union. You know, the one last year that attacked Black Lives Matter for a botched raid that we had nothing to do with, that caused several investigations, one of being George Floyd's cases that is now under review because of one crooked cop named Officer Goins. Yes. So let's be real about life right now and talk about the fact that he announced a task force and an executive order. Here's the thing. Those same rules got instituted in other cities, but Eric Garner is dead today. George Floyd is dead today. And both of those cities had those same rules. How do you make rules that you don't bother to enforce? That is the definition of pacification. That is the definition of, I'm tired of hearing y'all talk. I'm going to give you what you want, and then I'm going to shut you up and keep it going. Remember what happened with the Confederate statues issue? Are those Confederate statues still up? Yes, they are. I'm going to put together a committee, and I'm going to do these different things. Pacification. No more. No more bull. No more of this. Let me hug you and tell you how good I'm going to make you feel. And sound like Reverend Lowdown at a funeral, centering yourself when it should have been about George Floyd. Because truth be told, I left the funeral early because I went for a specific reason. I stayed and I wanted to pay my respect to George and his family, and I wanted to hear them speak. I didn't need to hear from Sheila Jackson Lee. I didn't need to hear from Mayor Turner. I didn't need to hear from a lot of people. Not to mention the erasure of the work of all of the activists out there who have been on the ground pushing for this very moment. This is whitewashing, respectability politics, and Negro peonism.
You know, interesting.
That was disrespectful to the family.
Let's talk about that, because you bring up a good point. I think I watched most of the funeral, and yes, I don't think any mention of the work that BLM has been doing. I don't think those words were uttered at all. Am I correct?
Nah. And it's not even about BLM Houston. I think we're talking about the movement as a whole. There are so many activists that are organizing besides Black Lives Matter Houston who are doing the same work that we're doing, and a lot of times in partnership with us. And we're sitting here looking like, oh,
wow, look at this. Y'all are going to show protests with Black Lives Matter signs, but you won't acknowledge the people here who are thorns in the side of your ass, because you know if you do, you will be acknowledging that we're right. And that's what they do. And that's why our local television stations seem like extensions of Mayor Turner's press room. Like Mary Benton is the news director and not the news director that they hired to do that damn job, first and foremost. Because how many times did you watch the local news in Houston since these protests started, where they actually showed a substantial amount of footage where police were being abusive? Because I think about the deaf guy who got arrested earlier last week and was arrested and charged with failing to comply with verbal commands when he had said paperwork showing that he was deaf. What about the fact that our Acevedo went on all of these national news stories, stations and interviews along with Turner, separately of course, and talked about how kumbaya this all was. You cussing and you doing all these viral videos, but you had Houstonians, American citizens, sitting in a room at an all-site facility so they would get booked in slower on purpose, which threw a wrench in how we were responding to bail response and making sure they had support when they come out of jail. Took us 2 days to get the first list of people who had been arrested. Those people had stood in a room, stood up for 10 hours plus while zip tied. Those are violation of constitutional rights. When you arrest people in the middle of downtown by George R. Brown or by City Hall, and you arrest them and charge them with obstructing the freeway as opposed to the fact that they were marching in the street, that is perjury. That is abuse. So I don't care what R. Acevedo says. I don't care about his feelings and his solidarity with the movement or with George Floyd and his family. And I damn sure don't care about how Turner feels about what I'm saying, because I voted for him twice to keep a racist out. But, you know, representation for the sake of representation means nothing. Have you met Ben Carson, Candace Owens, Clarence Thomas? I don't want to put him into that category, but it's beginning to feel like this is a dystopian city, and all this mayor is concerned about is making Houston look good for the white folk. And I'm not here for it.
Now, let's close this on a very important issue. Where do we go from here? Like I said, the protests are going very well. And I think this right now, it seems like the stamina is still there for it. Where do we go from here?
We go from here, we keep protesting. We're not protesting until we're ready to stop protesting, because we know that this whitewash madness that's going around about defunding the police, there's different ways to defund the police. You can take money from the police and put in re-entry programs, which are needed. But the truth of the matter is, what it all boils down to is if you're willing to take the steps to do what is right. And so moving on from here, the protest should not stop until we say they're ready to stop, first. Second, we need to make sure that we're educating each other. We got to start having meetings and trainings, not just about civil disobedience and knowing your rights with the police, but we actually have to do critical mapping of what elected official does what their position entails, what those rules and regulations are, what they can and can't do, right? Because when we want to stop the Harris County Sheriff's Department or Kim Ock from getting money, we show up to the commissioner's court, right? When we want to know all these things, the data matters. Not to the point that that should be a crutch, but you should be able to justify why you need X amount of police officers or sheriff's deputies or constables or prosecutors. If the data doesn't match what you're doing, you're simply saying that you're inflating crime and you're feeding into the military industrial complex of this country, which is why we're living in the police state that we're in now. They think they can do things without impunity. And it's only going to be a matter of time before people start fighting back, and I won't stop them.
Ashton Woods, founder of Black Lives Matter Houston, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I like what he ended up talking about, us being a police state. A lot of times we don't realize that. if you see what Donald Trump did to the protesters that were there peacefully, and the good thing about it is we don't have to ask questions, or we don't have to have the media interpret it for us. We had tons of personal cameras. We had tons of aerial views. We had tons of the whole works to see live feed. And for those who think about doctoring video, there would have to be thousands and thousands, as like the president likes to say, thousands and thousands and thousands of doctored videos for us to not know what went on there in the square. But anyhow, we are going to continue with this. You know, one of the biggest drawbacks with the police, as I see it right now, is that police are really controlled. And I'm coming to you guys on the thread in a little bit. But police are pretty much, and by the way, folks, if you want to give us a call at 346-248-7799. Again, that is 346-248-7799. ID 254-600-9091 if you call in. And again, you'll get a chance to talk. We can take a whole lot. I think we can take over 100 people at a time if you were to ever decide to call. But give us a call if you want to add to the discussion. Anyway, you know, I want to play a video about showing two presidents of police unions. I want you to see their tonality, what they believe, how they talk, and something that they forget. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll move on from there. First of all, I want to make it clear, I am not a police basher. I am not one of those who just simply think police is just absolutely bad and we don't need them. That's not who I am. But I do speak clearly of what my experience is, what the experience of others are, and what the reality is. I wanted you to listen to one of the reasons why likely police officers behave the way they do. They believe they have some power, and they forget that we pay them. They forget that we decide what laws they're supposed to enforce, and they forget that it is their duty to be responsive to us. It is their duty to treat us appropriately. Check this out.
We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all. Just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all.
It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and bugs and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting.
Now, recently, we have the videos that show some cops push an older guy, 75-year-old guy, down on the ground. He hit his head, cracked his skull open, bleeding. And those two guys were charged. Would you know, all those officers in that entire command resigned their command and went out there, and they were giving them adorations, ovations, after they were charged with that behavior. You want to ask why police officers, police is under duress right now? Why the people are fed up with them? Because they're being wrong and strong. They forget who they work for. We decide what the laws are. We, the people, decide what the laws are. We pay people who are willing to enforce the laws for us. They work for us. When you take a look at how the unions operate, look, I'm not against unions. Unions are supposed to negotiate best offer for these police officers. They can negotiate a price that they want to charge for their services. They can negotiate that they want leave, they want family leave, all that kind of stuff. But we, the people, decide what laws we want to create in society, and then we hire people to enforce those laws and to make sure that others are enforcing those laws. Nothing more, nothing less. These are bastions of society. We don't need them to be bastions of societies. We don't need to know whether they're good or bad. We just need to know that they're there to enforce the laws that we, the people, decide they should enforce. But these guys like to come across as if they are in command. I am sorry. We are in command, and we pay them to enforce what we've asked them to enforce. Okay, and for that, I didn't get to say everything that I wanted to say in that video, so I also compiled a blog that you guys can find at egbertowillies.com. But here's what I made sure to say in the blog, and I'm putting it up here. I said, in the last few months, I have watched the head of 2 police unions display a brazen arrogance and bullying rhetoric toward those wanting police accountability. To be clear, I am not anti-police. Hell, I got a police officer a commendation after I wrote a viral blog post about my positive interaction with him after being stopped for driving while black. I have always believed that people attempt to live up to their accolades, so should we not try that? That's the reason why I gave them the positive affirmations. Anyhow, moving on, I said, the video in this post displays the behavior of the president of 2 police unions who display a complete disregard for their real bosses. The union president was upset because 5 cops got hurt in a drug raid gone bad. 2 citizens in the home were killed. Guess what? It turned out the dirt bags were the cops who fraudulently invaded the couple's home and killed them. Now, a few police officers are under indictment for having done that. Again, another crooked police officer. In the case of Patrick Lynch, the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association of the City of New York, he sounded like a mob boss demanding respect. He said that the new police officers are being treated like thugs and animals. Maybe if fewer of them acted like thugs and animals against a community protesting their thuggish and animalistic behavior against some of their citizens, then they would get some respect. But as they continue to act like thugs and animals, we will treat them accordingly, like thugs and animals. And those that, all the ones that we talk about, let me continue. The standard statement is that most police are good. While the case may be that most don't murder POCs or falsely arrest and target those least able to defend themselves, the fact that most are silent makes them complicit. So you could have 99% of them that don't do bad things, but they all know the bad things and they all know they're bad apples. They all know they're infected apples, and they don't report them. They don't report their infected apples, and their infected apples continue to kill. And because their infected apples are generally also racist, most of the ones they kill are people who are people of color. Yes, a few of our white brothers and sisters sometimes gets into their wrath as well. But the preponderance of what they do is towards us. You can't continue to have people killed by cops who are innocent and not admit to a very serious problem. And I want to show you guys this. So I'm not BSing. This is me and the officer as we took a picture, because I was so impressed. Even though I was stopped for driving while black, he was very nice in the way he dealt with me professionally. Here it is. That's the picture. I turned around and I did a foolish thing, because knowing that how they respond, I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. I turned around and went ahead, gave the picture, and I took the picture with him. He was okay with it. And after I took the picture with him, I took a picture with him by this patrol car. I went on to the news, KPFT. I was heading there. That's where I was heading in the first place. He almost made me late, and I gave him kudos on air. How great he was, how nice he was, how professional he was. And then I wrote the blog. After I wrote the blog, he got a commendation. So I am not some police basher out there, but what we have in this country is a problem with police officers. They kill people who look like me. They kill people who generally have a name like Martinez, Rodriguez, or folks who look like me. That's what they do. We may say, oh, but most stuff, we don't hear about most things. Now that they're under the gun, look how the videos are coming out, one after another, after another, after another. Did you know about that guy who got killed 15 months in Houston? Same thing. No, you don't. Never released, because some people just don't matter. So when you hear Ashton P. Woods talk about Black Lives Matter, when you hear the term Black Lives Matter, it has nothing to do with disregarding any other person's or ethnicity or any other one's life. It is an affirmative action that says, guess what? My life matters. Just like your life has always mattered, my life matters too. And to date, the fact that we could have somebody spend 9 minutes almost 9 minutes under somebody's knees, and people pass by and nobody could do anything about it. Other cops couldn't do anything about it. The population in the vicinity couldn't do anything about it, as this guy methodically murdered somebody. We just happened to see this one in real time in daylight. It is so, your life is so devoid of value that they can do it in open daylight, knowing or believing nothing will happen. I mean, if you notice, I talk about this almost this stuff messes with your psyche, that you could murder somebody. That speaks to me, that you could murder in front of America. But you know what was so happy about what's going on? I love to see what I'm seeing in the field. To hell with all those old timers who continue to be troglodytes. To hell with those who don't see the reality. Guess what? 70-something% of America now acknowledges the racist society that we are, and that they want it changed. And it's starting. I love my millennials. Everybody have asked, why do you work so frequently with millennials? You heard Ashton Woods say, Egberto, you know me for 10 years. You've seen me grow up. Those are my folks that I've been working with for quite a long time. These younger people, because that is where the future is. With progressive older folks like myself and those millennials and those Gen Zs that are making a difference. Those are the folks I want to uplift. Those are the folks that our generation are impoverishing with these constant tax cuts, with these constant financial that only work for the top, those older people. You know what, man? We have to, the people that are going to save this country are our millennials or our Gen Zs, because we've done a lousy job. We've kept all this crap for so long. For so darn long. We've kept the society the way it is. And to watch all my black brothers and my white brothers and sisters and my Latino brothers and sisters and my Asian brothers and sisters and my Indian brothers and sisters and my indigenous brothers and sisters marching hand in hand, not only in Washington, D.C., not only in Houston, Texas, not only in Camden, New Jersey, not only in Los Angeles, California, not only in Seattle, Washington, but in Timbuktu, Texas, in Timbuktu, North Dakota, in Timbuktu, in 50 states. Our young brothers and sisters of every stripe, every color, not falling for the old crap that we've talked about for so long, the fallacies of racial strife. We have those old troglodytes. They're bringing down the statues of the evil. They're bringing down the statues of all those people that some of us like to still worship, the Confederacy, the losers in the war, the folks who systematically enslaved. I want to correct one thing here, because I am not holding this on the South only, because yes, the South had systemic racial codified problems, but the North had systemic racial problems. Note the difference. The North had systemic racial problem. The South had systemic racial codified problems. Know the difference. One was into the law. The other one was just implemented because that's how the people were. We understand those things and we understand society. We understand those things and we understand why things are the way they are. Folks, I love those people that I see marching. I love what I am seeing right now in society, because yes, finally, America is changing. And I think watching those people who their parents, those millennials who their parents have taught to be racist, because racism is something that is taught. Those parents who taught their kids to be racist, those kids, and lied to their kids about, no, the police is, those people are just that way. They got to see it for themselves that their parents lied to them. Their racist parents who are living on the limbs of their racist parents. You know, I don't hold anybody. I give everybody the chance, the doubt, because I had my own prejudices. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I throw it at myself for the bad parts of myself as well. So let's go ahead and do one important thing. Because since I'm talking race and all of that, I don't want to come across as somebody that just, hitting up people for being racist. Because, like I said, we all have our prejudices. And unless we admit it ourselves, we have issues. And we have to be correctly putting these things out. So I want to play something that I did. Some of you may have seen it already, but I cleaned it up a bit. I want to put it out there. My thoughts on prejudice and how to overcome. So let me go ahead and play that, and we'll go take it from there. I want us to reach the stage where we don't have to sit down and judge everything that everybody says, whether that means they are prejudiced, racist, homophobic, or whatever. I want us to reach to that stage where we're allowed to make mistakes and understand that we're victims of our upbringing. Ali points out, like many others, that unless we name the problem and lean into it until it's uncomfortable, until it hurts, we're not doing our job. I'm talking now about the previous video that I played with Ali Velshi, where he said he was talking mostly to white people and saying you have to lean in till it hurts. I wanted to point out that, personally, Egberto Willis, I had to do the same thing too. I try to show that humanity is pretty much the same, just a lot of times on different issues. And I don't want to talk about the gradations of wrong or the gradations of what's evil or not. I said the following: to get rid of my biases, one has to be intentional. As a Black, Latino, Caribbean man, the homophobic bias, the homophobic hate was instilled in me from the beginning of my existence. When I saw the light of my hypocritical, hateful, immoral idiocy, I made the mental change. It was not until I leaned in, forced myself into gay issues, gay understanding, get over the awkwardness, did I rid myself of the scourge, not only from the mind, but from the heart. White Americans must go through that catharsis as honest with themselves as I had to do with myself to overcome what was not anybody else's problem, my problem. I was the ignorant one. I was the one who didn't realize that I was wrong in the thought process, in my prejudice. I had triggers from the way I came up in life. That's what I learned. That is what I was taught. That's how I was reared. But once made aware, once enlightened, once given real data, once doing these issues and finding out that you were wrong, the most important thing one has to be is humble enough with themselves to say, I was wrong, and yes, I cannot change on a dime because there's something within the mental process within humanity that doesn't quite allow that unless you immerse yourself into it. That is one of the good things about integration, right? And that with the young kids that are coming up, they're all together, so they know that they are all the same. Now, later on in life, because of externalities, they may use it as a weapon, but they know we are all the same. Many others didn't, but when informed, they have to lean in till it hurts. And I tell you something, brothers and sisters, I'll be very honest with you. You know, there are all kind of terms that folks use when we're describing people, and let's specifically say gay people. And every so often, I find myself maybe using an unacceptable term. I mean, not a derogatory, but an unacceptable term. Because again, muscle memory and other things that leads that way. And you know what? I turn around, forgive myself, move on and say, well, that little piece of the cancer is still right there. And then you extricate it till you reach to the point where it's not a part of your being, humanity. So I think it's important. I think it is important for us, those of us that are the ones that are aggrieved. I think a lot of people get on my case when I say that. I think we have to give others space. We need to give others space. Those who really want to change, we have to give them space to change. And I think we're in the perfect spot with all that is occurring. Look at the polls with folks finally saying, oh my God, it is real. I couldn't be this time. Many times deep inside, I know I was willfully ignorant about gay issues as it was happening, but there was something that made you force. In my case, it was speaking to a very intelligent partner heading to China business trip. And when he said that and I sat in that plane and I thought about the way my being, why. And then after I was done beating up myself for having been stupid for 20 something years, then I forgave myself and I moved on and said I couldn't be that anymore. And we have to do that with ourselves, and we have to give others space to do that. Okay, I hope you got that. I hope you also got where I'm coming from. One of the reasons I like to do those is because I want everybody to understand we all have our demons, but the thing about it is when our demons are identified, what do we do about them? Do we take the honest route and solve them, or do we dig in? And as Ali Velshi would say, lean in. So I tell all those folks that are prejudiced, racist, and otherwise, lean in. Let me call my folks out. Sally Salas, welcome aboard. Michael Rutnin, AVQ, is here with us from YouTube. And of course, we have Jesse Torres from YouTube as well. Michael Runnin. Let's see who else is here. Daniel Ledo from Facebook. Lee Grant from Facebook. Lawrence Sim from Facebook. Mike Cisak from he's on Facebook today. Lawrence, I think I called you out already, brother Lawrence. Let's see who else is here. I don't want to miss anybody. William Getchman, I think you are from Facebook as well. Troy Astro is from Facebook. Let's see who else. Lee Grant, welcome aboard, brother. Norman Reynolds, my brother, and Tara Ivanovich. Welcome aboard. Tara is also on Facebook. Bruce Pollard, my brother here in Kingwood, Texas. And let's see, Rachel Port. Welcome aboard, Rachel. Nice to see you again. Let's see. If I miss you, forgive me. Curtis Jacobs, mi cuñado. ¿Cómo estás, hermano? Here, Curtis is here with us as well. Rose Williams. Rose is one of my favorite Medicare for All activists because, damn, she's good. Lewis Johnson, welcome aboard. Who am I missing? I got Lewis Johnson in there already. Okay, now I'm going to go through real quick because I don't have mucho tiempo. So let's go real quick. I'm going to start from the bottom. Mike, no, better start from the top. Okay, here we go. Camden, New Jersey disbanded their police. Yes, they did, Michael Rudnin. And I think I don't have the full story on that. AVQ says, I'm here from YouTube. Sally Salas replying says, too many bootlickers don't understand what we mean by defunding the police. Defunding the police really just means reallocating monies. Instead of putting all your money into the police to enforce the law, what you do is you make sure that you have people put some money into having people have jobs. If the one thing you notice, if a community is filled with work, filled with resources, you don't need the police. People go on with their business. If a place is poor, underserved, you get robbers. Robbers eventually, a lot of times, turn into murderers. I mean, it's the whole thing. You look at any socio-economically depressed community, whether it is in the ghetto, the barrios, or Appalachia, you'll find the same kind of dynamics as far as people killing each other, as far as depression, all these things. That is what occur. Now, all these folks, like when you see Michael's brother Cizek in the room try to say, oh, well, black people kill more people on average or whatever. Yeah, and I could also say, oh, yeah, but the poverty level in black folks are more than 5 times that in the white community. So, I mean, it tracks, all these things track perfectly. The people that don't want you to see that are the people that are misinformed. And I don't think Mike Cizek is a bad guy. I don't think Daniel Ledo is a bad person, but they're just informed by the wrong people. They're informed by a whole bunch of negative, evil liars. And what I have to do is develop the trust within them so that they listen to me and not the others. Okay, Jesse Torres. I once saw a report on MSNBC that said Rodney King, only about 1 in 80 police officers actually found guilty. Yeah, and if it's 1 in 80, I'll be surprised. Michael Rudnin says, replying to Michael Rudnin, let's say it's a bad slogan. You know, I spoke to a lot of the Black Lives Matter people about that. It's a bad slogan, just like Black Lives Matter. Initially, I thought was a bad slogan, but then I learned that what the commotion that it created and what it means actually made it make a lot of sense. Let me give an example. I asked the founder, Patrice Collars. I said, "Hey, Patrice, why did you just have it as Black Lives Matter? Why didn't you just say do something so that people don't think you're only thinking about black people?" Says, "No, I want the discussion. We already know everybody else's lives matter. We want to tell them on the affirmative that our lives matter as well." And I said, "So why didn't you say Black Lives Matter too?" She said, "No, I want an affirmative statement. We don't have to be dependent. An affirmative statement. Nobody else asked anybody to say, we too matter, we too matter." So I learned from my Black Lives Matter people why they did it that way. And you know what? Listen to when you hear Mitt Romney saying Black Lives Matter, I was wrong. Patrice Collars was right. Okay, let's see. I wonder how Egberto rationalizes the fact that these racist cops are in cities. Oh, Lord, I'm not going to answer that because that's a silly statement, my brother. I'm sorry. That is just silly. All right, let me go down to the bottom because I'm kind of running out of time. Lewis Johnson said, "Accused and convicted doesn't mean guilt. You have to be removed. You have not removed the false arrest or the false conviction. It also does not account for people who get off duty to false procedure." You're absolutely right, Lewis. How am I going to argue with that? Rachel Port says, "I found the $53. Maybe I missed that. Maybe you said that somewhere that I missed, Rachel. I don't know what we're talking about. But anyhow, let me see. Tara, let's see if Tara said something. Tara says, Mike Cisak learned a little something about systemic racism and then feel free to comment. I think that is something, Tara, that we need to teach a lot of people, right? When they hear systemic, but it has a lot to do with Fox News and how Fox News informs them. Okay, systemic racism isn't a very hard thing to understand. But folks, I really got to go ahead now and really ask you to please consider becoming a member, a contributor, a subscriber to Politics Done Right. It is very inexpensive. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put, how can you subscribe to Politics Done Right? You can subscribe to Politics Done Right by going to, for those of you listening to me on podcast, patreon.com/Politics Done Right. That is patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Our subscriptions are very inexpensive, less than a cup of coffee. So please go ahead and become a subscriber. Keep us alive. Keep us telling the truth. Keep us informing. Keep us planting seeds in my brothers and sisters like, let's say, Mike Cisak and Daniel Ledo, who I love dearly. I'm someday going to get and crack the code, brothers. Someday I'm going to get there and crack the code. Oh, Michael Rudnin, you say you're going to see me on Friday. You won't be here tomorrow. We'll definitely miss you, brother. We'll definitely miss you. Kathy Courtney, thank you so kindly for being here. So anyhow, folks, if you want to subscribe, go to patreon.com/Politics Done Right. patreon.com/Politics Done Right. If you want to go via PayPal, you can also subscribe via PayPal or give a contribution through PayPal. That is paypal.me/Politics Done Right. PayPal.me/Politics Done Right. And don't forget to go to our store. Our store has some good stuff in there, and I'm going to put it on the screen right now. But you can get our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Learn everything about the economy in a very easy-to-understand manner. I trust once you get this, you'll understand everything we talk about, patents, all that good stuff, in a way you understand, and you're going to look like a genius when you start talking. People start telling you crap, or when you start listening to Fox News, you're going to say, oh, my God, Fox, you're full of it. Pick up Politics Done. Pick up As I See It, Class Warfare. I guarantee you'll know all that stuff. Anyway, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. That is a book I wrote because, and by the way, I'm going through another iteration of lose weight because I went up a little bit in weight. This pandemic has you eating like crazy, and I'm just following my book. I'm going to take those 10 pounds off like that because I'm following my book. Anyhow, other thing is we have our cups as well. Hey, Politics Done Right. You can go ahead and get, Politics Done Right. I support independent media. But don't forget, at that store as well, we have our t-shirts. Here is it on screen right now. Look, I know you have places that you can go anytime and listen and spend your time there. I really am appreciative of you being with us. I'm really appreciative of you spending your time with Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.